How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting, and welcome back to Putrika. When they, why she must perish. It's the first chapter, obviously. So we finally got the revelations of what actually happened at Twilight Ridge. At first, it seemed like it was a cut and dry witchcraft, like a baseless witchcraft, accusation, and it still was. But instead of Ilsa, who we thought was the one who was burned at the stake, it was the girl that she was meeting and had fallen in love with that was burned. Well, Ilsa just confessed to being tricked by a witch or a demon or whatever, and that's what broke her spirit. It wasn't the fact that she had been tortured. It wasn't the fact that she had felt like she had sinned or what. It was watching and knowing that despite everything that she did, that the person that she'd fallen in love with had been put to death, by the people, who she grew up with. I think that'd break anybody. And that's the quote curse. And then when she got rescued by Remi, she was just not interested in life anymore. Ended up taking her own. And so now he's made kind of a homunculus kind of creation using her. But those lingering memories are still there. And it's, interesting. Very, very interesting. So I'm curious where things are going to go from here, but let's take a dive, shall we? Let's jump right in. One must wonder when the town's atmosphere became so twisted and paranoid. The overwhelming mood is unsettling and somewhat sorrowful. Yeah, I think it's crazy because this happens in communities sometimes. It's weird because it'll seemingly be so random. Obviously, you'll have the fuel and the setup is likely been there for a while, but then they'll have a whole community just cascade into just basically barbarism in an attempt to somehow try and reclaim a sense of safety and community. This witch trials of Salem was a good example, but there's got to be other examples too. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but just in general, people can sometimes be driven by fear to do some pretty crazy stuff. Yeah. Some rumors started it all. Rumors that a witch trial at a nearby village ended with bloodshed caused the witches to evacuate to our town. It was never anything more than a tall tale exchanged over drinks. At some point, however, fear of the witches took hold of anything, and everything changed. The townsfolk began to wonder. Even those who laughed at the tale off grew fearful and came to doubt their neighbors. Soon everyone I knew believed in the witches. The day the first trial was held against the poor suspect was executed was when we paused at the point of no return. Some objected, but the fear of persecution dulled their voices. Soon no one dared speak up. Any act that invited suspicion was a death sentence. The town's warmth disappeared, overshadowed by a cloud of suspicion. Once the first victim's life was claimed, an uncomfortable silence fell. Then the people clamored. Who was next? Who should they judge? Did witches truly exist? Surely everyone had their doubts, but there was no turning back now. Once lives were lost, no one dared to admit that there was no witch. Yeah, because that's so true, because they would never admit that it was not true, because then that would be them admitting that not only did they make a mistake, but that they killed their friends or neighbors for no reason. And that would also break people. That's a real rough place to be. Without a witch to blame, the hearts of the townsfolk would not endure. A new day claimed the life of yet another victim. There was an underlying reason for why the poor old lady at the bakery was accused. Her daughter's husband committed adultery, and to hide his wrongdoing, he indicted them both. In other words, he used the witch trials to his own benefit, and we all knew. We simply didn't speak up. Yeah, look at that. I would argue that the 90% of witch hunts are probably that. Started as a way of a lie to escape punishment or retribution, or to blame a bad choice that they made, because I'm such a virtuous person, I never would have done that. It must have been witches that made me do that. And it just dominoes into this madness. This town had gone mad. The people cheer every time a new corpse decorates the stakes and pyres. This macabre festival had one purpose: to protect the guilty and provide them peace of mind. It mustn't be stopped. This madness must be left to fester. This is the new status quo. One can only embrace it should they wish to survive. Is this the angel's point of view? Because she's crazy.
おかしいよ。
Oh, hey Rubia. Hope you're okay. Oh, you better not get caught up in all this or we will have to burn the whole place down. The girl stood at the center of the square as she did the unthinkable.
こんなの絶対に間違っている。怖いよ、みんな。
Careful, careful. Everyone turned to glare at her. What was this girl trying to say?
ねえ、もっと冷静に考えてみて。魔女なんてどこにもいないの。みんな怖がらなくていいんだよ。あのパン屋のおばあさんが焼くパンはとても美味しかったよ。
Oh
そんなお
no.
ばあさんが魔女のわけがないもん。
Oh crap. The girl's hands shook with fear. Still, she mustered the courage to face the mob.
私もね、わがままで悪い子になってしまうことがある。だけど叱ってくれる人がいて許してくれる人がいた。だから
The girl wasn't eloquent in the slightest, and yet her words were like a ray of hope that quelled everyone's paranoia.
わかんないけど、私にはどうしたらいいかわかんないけど。
The rest of the townsfolk fell silent. Her words had struck a chord. For now.
間違っているってことだけは私にもわかるもん。
Her eyes teared up as she finally shouted out how she felt.
誰かおばあさんを助けてあげて。ひどいことをしないで許してあげて。
The girl understood so little. She might not even have realized that the hag was already dead. Her feelings were so wonderfully pure and innocent.
お願い。
In that moment, it was as if everyone remembered the warm days they had long lost sight of, back when the townsfolk cherished their neighbors and prayed to the Lord. The precious days precious days whose value was realized too late. Which was why I had to speak.
魔女の仲間め、またこの町を絶望に染めようというのか。
Interesting. So this is someone who makes it sound like they had that idea like this needs to continue. Why? Who told you that? I couldn't let her. The madness could not be allowed to abate.
こいつも魔女だ。誰かすぐに捕らえろ。
The rage had to be rekindled. And thus everything the girl said fell on deaf ears.
どうして？
The girl looked at me. There was hurt in her eyes.
邪悪な魔女め。
I would kill her and live to see another day. Oh, maybe he's the husband who cheated and like is trying to bury his guilt. In this world, the foolishly honest are but lambs to the slaughter. The flood of malice from the townspeople overwhelmed the girl. She was powerless. There was nothing she could do. She knew nothing of how cruel this world could be.
本当におバカさんですね。
Even worse, the girl was one of the demon's effigy's allies. I had no obligation to save her. I merely watched as she was swarmed.
近寄らないで。
Oh boy. The girl tried to escape. She ran desperately as she could. Even as she tripped and fell and sustained wound after wound, she endured and kept on running.
何をしている。ガキ一人を捕らえられんとは。急げ。
It was a mere stroke of luck that the girl evaded capture. She was small and could pass through gaps and alleys that grown men could not. She was deft and unpredictable, much like a cat.
はあ、時間の問題ですけど。
Nowhere in town was safe for her. She could not evade her pursuers for much longer.
どうして？
As the girl hid in the shadows, she whispered to herself.
私は何も間違っていないのに。
A blind eye was turned to justice. The vile could not be swayed by righteous words.
見失うんじゃねえぞ。必ず捕まえろ。
The girl heard her pursuers closing in. Her energy was spent. She could run no longer. Screwing her eyes shut, she suppressed her cries. She could only pray that her pursuers could not see her in turn.
ここか。
A man with bloodshot eyes arrived at the scene and looked to where the girl happened to be hiding. Any moment now and he would spot her.
こんなところにいるわけねえか。
The man sighed and left.
どうして
I wonder if he, kind of felt guilty. The girl was confused. Their eyes had met, yet the man looked away without noticing her. What I did was wholly unnecessary. Oh, maybe you did intervene. I did not serve a purpose. I embraced the girl from behind, even as I regretted my own actions.
私が見えていないの？天使の気まぐれです。勘違いしないように。
I don't get you, Ansh. Like, what is your your game makes no sense. I don't know what your choices have meant for anything you've done. I erected a barrier that rendered those within imperceivable to the eye. It was a weak barrier that wouldn't work on demons or effigies, only humans.
天使さんが助けてくれたの？
The witch trials were an unavoidable tragedy in service of our noble cause. If needed, we would employ madmen and watch as they caused havoc, but there was no need to let this girl die. At least that was what I told myself.
バカなことをした。
There was no point dwelling over it.
ありがとう、天使さん。アンシュ。
The girl teared up as she smiled at me.
私はアンシュ。そう呼んでください。
Some part of me was relieved, a part of myself that I preferred not to think about.
あのクソガキ、どこ行きやがった。ちくしょう、やっぱり魔女だったんだ。見つけ次第捕まえろ。火あぶりにしてやる。
We heard her pursuers in the distance. They were persistent and merciless.
早急にここを離れるべきです。見つかると厄介なことになりそうですし。
So what about Remi and Lazriel? Like, where are they?
アンシ
The girl gripped my sleeve.
ュ、助けてくれてありがとう。
I had no reason to save her, but I also had no reason to let her die. That was the only reason I acted. Also, Ruby is awesome, so. From behind us, we could still hear the frenzied cries. Screams of the mob drunk on their witch hunts. The town was swallowed by fear and superstition that drove its people to violence. Even as we escaped, the fires of madness continued to burn.
なぜあんなことをしたのですか？
I don't know. The two of us took refuge in a nearby grove. I have no obligation to the girl any longer, but I was unable to leave until she'd let go of my hand.
狂気に落ちた愚か者に異を唱えたでしょう。
She just wanted to
自
stop
殺
it.
志願者ですか？
She's just a person who cares.
だって
The girl stumbled over her words as she tried to explain herself.
話せば分かってくれると思ったから。ね
Aw. Her intentions were far too naive.
え、アンシュ。どうしておばあさんはいじめられていたの？みんなで寄ってたかって一方的な真実を押し付けていたわ。ナズタンはおばあさんは無実だって言ってたのに。
The girl's pure-hearted doubt struck right at the core of what was wrong with the world.
もしかしたらみんなの言う通りおばあさんは悪い人だったのかもしれない。だとしてもあんなことが許されるはずないよ。きっと話せば分かり合えるはずなのに知らない人同士だからあんなことができるのよ。
That's actually the worst part, is that they probably did know her. Like, at least some of the people in there. The guy who instigated it certainly did. He was married to her. But that's what makes it so awful. Her eyes were swollen from all the tears that had yet to dry.
彼らは怯えています。だけどその怯えがどこからやってきているのかそれすら理解していません。
I calmly gave her my answer, and I clicked too early.
だから彼らは悪者を探すのです。目につくものすべてが悪いものに見え、そうであると信じてしまう。すべては魔女の仕業だと思い込んでいた方が楽ですから。
Yeah, I like that idea that, they don't even know why they're afraid. They just know they're afraid, and so to comfort themselves, they find something to blame. And in this case, it turned out to be a witch. A made-up witch, but a witch.
おばあさんが魔女なわけないのに。 悪魔や天使を恐れの対象としたってどうにもなりません。だから自分よりも立場が弱い相手を標的にする。その方が思い通りにできますから。
Oh, it's much better to make the target of your fears someone weaker. Interesting. There's a lot of like kind of very not great stuff going on in the world and in my country. And I wonder if that's kind of a manifestation of it. What if like what's really happening is that there's people who are afraid. They're afraid that they're losing control, that things are falling apart, that the world's, their world, the world as they know it's coming to an end. But you can't really like go after the forces that are at play there, like these mega corporations and, politicians and just like, like debt collectors and bills and like these things that are just like you can't really do much about as an individual. But you can look at the people around you and look at the community and say, who are the weak people whom I don't like or who I feel are at fault somehow? I can go after them because they can't fight back. And I can feel better by targeting or justifying like targeting people whom I disagree with. That kind of sadly tracks pretty heavily. God, people don't change and they're pieces of garbage.
そんなのひどすぎる。
Yeah.
ひどい話です。けれどこれが人間の習性ですよ。彼らは地獄を見なければ学ぶことができません。こんなことはどの時代にも発生していて、それが今魔女狩りという呼び名にされているだけ。
Interesting. They never learn without being exposed to hell. Like, is she talking about like an afterlife hell in the sense that like when you die and you go to hell, then you realize everything? Or is it simply like without being exposed to like true evil and true pain and true suffering, people just don't get the context necessary to see these things properly?
私はそんな風にはならないもん。ええ、そうですね。誰もがあなたのように清らかであるのならよかったのに。
She's like, you know what? I think you wouldn't be able to do that. Frankly, I probably couldn't either. Like, I don't know. It's hard to judge for sure because, people are people and people are flawed and people can change. But I also, like, I have too much empathy. Like, I could never. I don't think I could even do something like that if it would save my life. Like, if it was like, oh, it's you or somebody you decide. If I had the power to pick anybody and they could be, like, executed in my place or I would have to die, I probably would just die. Just because I don't think I could bring myself to do that. But then again, I'm not in that position. I don't know. It's really hard to know these things. Those words may have been for myself.
時と場合を考えましょう。正しい言葉は反感を生みます。そのことは今日学びましたね。
The right words at the wrong time.
いい子です。これからもその信念を大切にするように。
I don't get you. The goal was to eliminate the demon effigy, not out of spite, but because I believed the world could not maintain peace while the effigy drew breath.
中身なんて知りたくないです。ためらいを覚えてしまったら剣が鈍りますから。
I was determined to pass judgment. Was I any different from the crazed townspeople in their witch trials?
違います。
My fist tightened as I reaffirmed my own justice. As an angel, I could not let the demon effigy walk free, not as long as he threatened the balance of the world.
アンシュはいい人だね。そんなことはないです。ただの気まぐれ。私は子供には優しいのです。アンシュだって子供にしか見えないのに。
How insolent of her.
たまにはこういうこともあっても良いでしょう。
The girl's smile was enough to trivialize my worries. I no longer regretted my actions. Oh, that's something. Darkness fell. As the sun vanished beyond the horizon, the sky turned a deep shade of indigo, and the stars twinkled. The night descended, as silence enveloped all. The girl was soon lulled to sleep in the quiet. Her expression was peaceful, almost angelic.
ご無沙汰しております、天使様。
Who the fetch are you? And why do you have such a big, cool hat? The silence of the night was disturbed by the appearance of a single man.
おや、この子は新たな眷属というわけではなさそうですね。
悪魔の人形の保護下にある少女です。成り行きで助けることになりました。
なるほど。人質にするおつもりですか。
Alright, I really don't like you,
さすが
John.
天使様にございます。
John Churchman.
いえ、そういうわけでは。
悪魔の手先なら殺しておくべきでは。
その必要はありません。
I glared at the man.
お前の記した歴史書はこの世界に浸透し事実となりました。目的は果たされたと言えるでしょう。次はお前が契約を果たす番ですよ。
He's not like the creepy priest from the story, is he? Your account of events has spread through the world and become truth. You've already achieved your goal. Now is your time to earn the agreement. What agreement? What did he want? That's crazy.
もちろんです。私のような矮小な者の願いを叶えていただいたこと、心の底から感謝しております。
That face alone is so punchable. Like, why? You suck. And I can tell you suck. I don't know exactly why, but I know it. The man gave an unrepentant smile.
悪魔の人形を殺してみせましょう。すべては四天使の意志のもとに。
To bring about justice, I had joined hands with evil. I was simply making use of this man. By no means I was indulging his evil.
つくづく愚かですね。
Mankind was foolish, but so was I. So was everything else. If only I were as pure of heart as this girl, I'd be better served.
ああ、そうでした。最後にもう一度だけ確認させていただきたいのですが。
The man spoke in a light-hearted manner.
娘を蘇らせる方法はこの世に存在しないのですね。
Oh, wait, John! Oh. Ilsa's dad. That's what it was.
当然のことです。ジョン、お前もなかなかに諦めが悪いですね。
He was a madman drunk on love who tried to rewrite history. His goal was for his account to be spread for ages to come.
死せる者は生き返ることはありません。
残念です。
An eye for an eye, evil for evil. The avaricious villain would become the sword that strikes down the effigy. I told Lazriel everything on the way home. John Bertrand's memoir differed from what I knew of the truth in several ways. Most importantly, Ilsa was not executed.
いくつかの公的な記録に残されたスミス家の悪童と呼ばれる存在。書によれば、彼がイルサを魔女だと告発したとされている。
It begged the question of who this man was.
そもそもの前提が間違っていたんだ。ジョン・ベルトランという人物は記録上は存在していない。彼の本名はジョン・スミス。スミス家の悪童とはイルサの父親のことを指していた。
Ironically, the name John Smith is his real name, unlike the fact that that's basically like the name you give to a like a person, a body, or an individual who you have no identity for. Someone surveyed the tragedy that took place in that village. Someone survived the tragedy. I was able to obtain their testimony on condition of complete anonymity. It was a truth I was able to uncover while I left Lazriel at home. Ever since, I'd been preoccupied day and night with trying to locate John Smith's whereabouts.
彼は20年前、ある女性と共に魔女裁判にかけられていた。当時は黒魔術や悪魔を信じる邪教徒だったらしい。
So
スミス
he
家の
was.
悪童というのは
Oh
過去に
gosh.
使われていた呼称だ。
What's the whole saying? It's like every accusation is a confession. It's like it's not true, but like people who are quick to jump to conclusions about, oh, they must be doing this, or they clearly are doing this when there's no evidence to say the fact, is usually somebody who's preoccupied with having done that or wanting to do that very same thing. Yeah, dang.
それじゃあ イルサを告発したのはお父さんってこと？
うん。善良な父親という仮面の下に詐欺師としての顔を隠していたようだ。
Gross.
どうして？
わからない。だがその動機がどうであれ、彼は自己利益のために歴史を塗り替えようとした。最愛の娘を魔女として密告し、その上で悲劇を美化した物語に脚色したんだ。
Why?
真実を明らかにしなければならない。それがイルサの死を弔う唯一の方法だ。
Okay, but how are you gonna do that? Darkness fell as we made our way back. The world was quiet with only our footsteps and the rustling of leaves to accompany us. Once I spotted our home, a warm feeling filled me. Before I knew it, the house had become my home. I was reaching for the doorknob when I felt a chill. Something was wrong.
誰かがいる。
There was an unpleasant presence on the other side of the door.
後ろに隠れていてくれ。
Someone was waiting for us. Knowing full well a trap may have been laid, I pushed through. The house was deathly silent.
おかえりなさい。
The visitor greeted us with no regard or shame for his unannounced intrusion. God, it's like, you suck. Everything about you, you suck. He seemed to be a regular human, but there was something jarring about him.
ルビア！
Rubio was asleep next to the intruder. She looked at peace, which only heightened the intensity of this confrontation.
疲れて眠っているようです。どうかベッドまで運んであげてくれませんか。彼女はあのいびつな魔女裁判の中で勇敢にも声を上げて、
なんだって。
そこの宝石人形にかまけているばかりに見過ごしていたようですね。かわいそうな子です。あなたがどんなにこの子を守ろうとしても大切にできるのは一つだけ。さて、自己紹介をさせていただきましょう。
The man stood up and bowed.
私の名前はジョン・ベルトラン。いえ、ジョン・スミスと名乗った方が伝わるでしょうか。
He spoke in a serpentine manner. Venom dripped from his words.
悪魔の人形を殺しにやってきました。どうかお見知りおきを。
The intruder seized the initiative in the conversation.
冗談ですよ。今のは笑うところです。
I hate you so much.
こいつ。
A cold sweat ran down my face. This man was clearly aware that I was unsettled.
ラズリール。ルビアを部屋に。
I didn't dare let him out of my sight as I gestured to Lazriel. Lazriel held Rubia gently, then the two disappeared up the stairs.
何もしていませんよ。
わかっている。
人形のくせに人のように振る舞うんですね。おままごとのようです。
He was trying to provoke me. From what I could gather, he already knew about the both of us. I had no reason to entertain his jest.
お前をここに導いたのは。
さあ。
He was clearly here to murder me. Was he conceited enough to assume that he could?
お前は何が目的だ？
I mean, that's the thing. It's like I would be very, very concerned because, yeah, maybe it would be foolish for a normal person to try and kill whatever Remi is, right? But this person is, at the very least, likely informed by an angel, if not in, like, cahoots with an angel. Wouldn't that mean that if he's here, he's come prepared? That he might have enough information to be able to do something actionable against you? You should be very concerned. Granted, he's also posturing. You don't know how much of this is legitimate and how much is not, but still, be worried.
余裕がありませんね。もう少し会話を楽しみませんか？
黙れ。質問に答えろ。
人形には遊び心が理解できませんか？やれやれ。
He let out an exaggerated sigh.
私はね、歴史を改ざんしたいのですよ。あの町での出来事は本当に不快なものでした。故に本来あるべき姿で語り継がせたかった。 気高く美しい娘を守るためならどんな悪事にも手を染めましょう。
That's an odd thing to say from someone who basically instigated what eventually happened to her. I glanced to the stairs.
あなたが作った人形にはイルサの記憶が残されているでしょう。あれを公表されると困るんですよ。
Why?
真実は闇に葬り去りたい。
理解できないな。ラズリエルの中にイルサの記憶が残されていたとして何の意味がある？
Exactly.
お前の残した偽りの歴史書の方がよほど信憑性がある。
All I can think is por qué? Like, why? Lazriel and I were both supernatural origin. No normal person would believe in something claiming to have memories from a past life, much less a corpse.
確かにそれは盲点でした。なら私の心配は杞憂でしたね。いやー、よかったです。荒ごとにならなくて安心しました。
Hey, I understand you're being sarcastic, but I genuinely don't understand why. What was his deal? Was John Smith such a flippant man?
どうしてイルサを魔女として密告したの？
Lazriel, you probably shouldn't be here. Lazriel returned from her room and took the opportunity to speak up.
あなたはイルサのことを愛していなかったの？
愛していたとも。
The man raised his voice, catching me by surprise.
ええ、それはもう本当に愛していました。あの子の抱えるいびつさすらそのままめでていたほどです。
But you won't accept that she died as she died?
しかし、何の運命のいたずらでしょう。私はそうせざるを得なかったのです。話を聞いてくださればきっとあなたたちも納得してくれるでしょう。
I'm not sure I would. The man cleared his throat.
お茶を入れていただけますか。長話になりそうなので喉を潤したい。
Okay.
呆れるほどにふてぶてしい。
I agree. He's in your house, threatened to kill you, and he's like, oh, I'll tell you my story, but make me some tea. This will be a long tale. Like, what the fetch is wrong with this dude? Well, I guess there's a lot wrong with him. I stood up and went to the kitchen. Even then, I didn't let my guard down. The man stared on as I prepared the teapot. Not a single movement I made escaped his gaze. As I stirred, the sound of the teaspoon hitting the cup reverberated around the room, heightening the tension that was already thick in the air.
ありがとうございます。
The man quietly accepted his cup, took a sip, let out a sigh.
非常に美味しいお茶です。悪魔の人形が入れたものとは思えませんね。
どうも。
Exactly. Sure, whatever. He crossed his legs in his seat and smiled. Seemingly satisfied, he saw it fit to begin his tale.
すべての始まりは20年前に遡ります。
He seemed refreshed.
リュシーの母親、アンジェリーク・ベルトラン。彼女が魔女として告発されたことが悲劇の始まりでした。
Lucille. Oh, so she was the girl in the grove that, like, Ilsa fell in love with. So her mother was accused of witchcraft. It was 20 years ago now when Angelica, like, it's Angelica, but Angelica, Bertrand changed my world completely. She possessed a charm that was downright unnatural. There was a strength behind her gaze that conveyed more than words could express. Her irises, deeper than the night sky, ensnared the hearts of every man in her presence. Numerous suitors strove to conquer her, but they proved no match for her brash words and fierce disposition. At the time, I held a fascination with black magic, demonology, and other such questionable things. My reputation as the black sheep of the Smith family seemed to draw her interest, and she displayed a sort of amused curiosity toward me. Once I thought to ask what drew her to such matters of the occult. She silenced me with a coy smile and seduced me instead. Our affair started in jest, but as our trysts continued, we soon developed feelings for each other. We never sought to define our relationship. We were like lovers, or perhaps we were more. Neither of us could say for sure. For a time, we were content. Indeed, I was smitten with her. Tragically, the witch hunt that followed threw our lives into disarray. Angelica found herself indicted. Of course, she was innocent. Her accusers were men she rejected and the women who were jealous of her. Sadly, there were so very few who took Angelica's side in the trial. Her standing worsened by the day, and it was only a matter of time until her life was forfeit. That was when we promised that we would elope abroad.
一緒に逃げましょう。
Okay. So I suggested, and Angelica agreed with me. We would start our lives afresh in new lands and nurture our love. But my faintest hopes were soon dashed, by Angelica no less.
アンジェリーク、どうしてなんだ。
We made a promise to escape together. As long as I held her by my side, I didn't need anything else.
彼女は私を見捨てて一人で去ろうとした。
Okay, so she tried to leave you. She saw fit to slap aside my hand even as I reached for hers and throw away the time we'd spent together as though it had meant nothing. The words she spoke back then never left me.
愛していると口にしながら不幸になるのは分かっていると目を細めつつ、それでも一人で行くと固くなに譲らないのです。
She abandoned me. I'd come to terms with her terrible choice all on my own.
彼女の心は悪魔に騙されてしまった。
How convenient. That was when the angel's whisper reached me.
悪魔に取りつかれ魔女になってしまった。
I could not bear to live without condemning her for her actions.
彼女の魂を曇らせたものを私は決して許さない。
I decided I must live a life free from sin. There was no ending the cycle of misfortune without abandoning my impure thoughts. From that moment on, I lost all fascination I ever held for the occult. I became faithful and accepted the Lord's teachings, all to try to forgive Angelica for good. Time passed. I found myself wed to Angelica's little sister Emma, and had a daughter named Ilsa. Ilsa did not resemble Angelica in the slightest, except for the occasional glint in her eye that reminded me of my past lover's zeal. I mean, you married her sister. Like, that's quite a way to move on.
アンジェリーク。
I hid my pain from my family as I played the role of a patriarch, but instead inside I longed for Angelica still. As a consequence, the love I held for my daughter was rather twisted.
この子をアンジェリークとの子供だと思って育てましょう。
Yeah, twisted is definitely the word. It was the only way I could find hope for the future. However, never did I foresee that this sliver of hope, too, would be dashed, and from the unlikeliest of places. One day, a pure happenstance, I came across a girl named Lucy, who I had been tailing my daughter into the woods as I did every day in order to keep her safe. The moment I laid eyes upon the girl, I understood everything. She was Angelica's child, and mine as well. There was no mistake. I would not doubt my eyes. The day Angelica left me, she was expecting a child. My world broke down right then, and within that rubble, I found purpose.
Lucy.
So that is kind of awkward that Lucy and Ilsa would likely half sisters. Like, oh, No, that's like super half sisters. Actually, if you think about it, because they're like sister cousins. Oh no, got real Alabama in here real quick. Ooh, a new hope descended upon me.
アンジェリークと私の幸せの結晶が
Oh my gosh, how twisted and evil this is becoming.
手放してはならない奇跡のような贈り物なのです。彼女の前ではエマとの娘など粗末な存在でした。
So you let her die?
最愛の人の忘れがたみはこの世の全てに勝る価値を秘めているのですから。
A bright future awaited the two of us. This encounter was enough to imbue me with such hopes. However, it seemed that a different future awaited my dearest Lucy.
あろうことか。イルサとリュシーは同性愛という意味嫌われた愛の形を作り上げようとしていたのです。禁忌を犯すことに恥じることもなく。
Again, the angel whispered in my ear that he forbade love between the same sexes. So who's this angel you're talking about? That doesn't sound like an angel, honestly. To compound it further, they may have been born from different wombs, but the same blood ran in their veins. Their relationship was incestuous. That was immoral and certainly heretical, a sin worthy of execution as a witch. Okay, it's tougher though, because it's like, I don't know, man. It is weird, but it's like, it gets odder when it's like, yeah, like they're closer in family, but they're also like, the reason incest is so bad is because it's really bad for like if you bear children, they can have a lot of very strong and terrible medical problems. Like clearly, like it's tied into religion, but like that's a reflection of like something that's bad that they couldn't understand. Like I imagine that the tradition of like banning and punishing incest is the fact that like, hey, when incest happens, like the results are very bad, very toxic, very degrading, and very evil. And so let's just ban it completely, right? But it's like they wouldn't have had kids, but it is still very, very troubling, right? Like that's still problematic. I've never heard of this kind of thing, but it's probably happened, right? God, what a mess. God, John, you really made this. You really messed this stuff up terribly, didn't you? It was only a matter of time. The girls could not hope to conceal their depravity for long. The rest of the world would find them and tear them apart. Worse yet, the two girls conspired to leave town. That alone I could not let come to pass. Did they intend to humiliate me for my own failed attempt to elope? There was only one way for me to end their relationship and to protect the Lord's teachings. Only one option that would save my beloved Lucy, to indict Ilsa for witchcraft. Holy crap! He wanted to protect Lucy, and so he was gonna sacrifice his own. My gosh, what a psychopath! If I let Ilsa shoulder all the guilt, Lucy could yet be saved. I had to correct Lucy of her impure thoughts and avert her from going down the wrong path in life. Screw you, dude! Screw you on so many levels. Of course, Lucy would be saddened by her loss, but she could grow from it. It would be there by her side to support her. Despite my efforts, it seemed the Lord was most cruel and unforgiving. I offered Ilsa to him, and yet the cycle of violence did not cease. In a twist of fate, Emma, the fool that she was, indicted my Lucy. The rage and malice that stirred within my wife prompted her to bare her fangs at the worst timing. Her arrogance was a match for her sisters, so much so that I was rendered speechless. I spared no effort. I tried to hide Lucy's existence, appealed to the judges, and when all else failed, plotted to have her escape. And yet, even that did not work out, for Lucy herself rejected my hand.
君が私の実の父である証拠は
That day, I snuck into Lucy's cell only to be greeted with reproach.
私の父親は君ではありません。もしこの血が呪われているのなら、ここで終わらせてあげましょう。
The way she rejected me was a spitting image of her mother's strong personality. Like Angelica, Lucy was intent on dying alone. She must have been determined to martyr herself for Ilsa as a means to extract revenge upon me. Dude, the world isn't about you! My gosh, man, you're such an idiot. As a devout follower of the Lord, I could not endure the thought that history would brand my Lucy as nothing more than a witch. My efforts ended in vain. Lucy was found to be a witch and executed. I let the fruit of my love with Angelica tarnish her name forevermore. I could not accept that. As I watched a crowd of madmen gleefully surround the pyres, divine revelation fell upon me. Oh my gosh. Clearly a man of the Lord! This angel's whisper guided me to this one answer. Only those who survive will go on to write history. Was it truly an angel that blessed me with these thoughts? I did not hesitate to give in to hatred. That would be best. Dang. Holy crap. Angelique, not Angelica. And thus I dedicated myself to acting out this tragedy. Twilight Ridge ceased to exist that day. How did you kill an entire
ご
town?
清聴ありがとうございました。こっぱずかしい一人の男のつまらない失恋の物語でございます。
Yeah. As he
い
finished.
やはや、
Oh, I
恋というものはままなりませんね。
die. Anyway, as he finished, John Smith grinned with inexplicable satisfaction. Every word he spoke dripped with a nauseating madness. Listening to his tale in full may have been a fatal mistake.
嘘。
Yeah. I'm like, are you freaking serious, dude? Lazriel covered her mouth in shock as she shrank back.
イルサとリュシーがイボマイ。
ラザリエル
It caught her as she collapsed. She couldn't stop shaking in terror of what she had heard.
許せない。自分の娘を何だと思っているの？
Lazriel gasped for air as she glared at the man.
これじゃイルサがあんまりだわ。信じていたお父さんに密告され、愛していたリュシーをも失って。
The anger that drove Lazriel to rebuke the man was her own, not Ilsa's.
あなたの書いた歴史書はイルサの愛を冒涜している。彼女の思いを偽らないで。
I 100% agree. Ilsa's vengeance that rested inside Lazriel was yearning. Her budding malice craved her father's blood. And how did John Smith respond?
主の教えに反する行為は認められません。同性愛など頭がおかしいのでは？
Genuinely psychotic behavior. Holy crap. The man coldly trampled on his daughter's dignity. But what was truly terrifying was that the man represented the common sense of his time.
間違っているのはイルサの方ですよ。主の教えを信じ、天使に救われた人生を歩みながら、主に反旗を翻したのです。そんなの自業自得としか言えません。ましてやそれが私の娘の行いなど認められるわけがないのです。
You are a psychopath. Thus, the man wrote his memoir, just to frame his daughter as pure by his standards.
アンジェリークだって私を裏切って逃げ出した悪魔にささやかれた魔女連中を私は許すわけにはいかない。せめてリュシーだけでも救いたかったですが。
He's disgusting.
仕方ありませんね。これもまた主の試練でしょう。
I keep scrolling too early. He dared speak of Ilsa like she was filthy.
ラズリエル
大丈夫。私は耐えられる。この衝動に身を任せたりはしないから。
そうじゃない。
I wasn't afraid that Lazriel would lose control after hearing that nonsense.
我慢できないのは俺の方だ。
I'm about to send this guy into frickin' orbit! I recalled how Ilsa despaired and was driven to depart from this world. This man's words spat on her pain.
生まれて初めて人間を殺したくなった。
How was I to disperse all this hatred that I felt? In that moment, I vehemently resented the accord with the angels. But then, before my hatred could take form, something unexpected happened. Oh, what the fetch? Blood spouted violently from the man's mouth. His body was racked with painful spasms. He collapsed to the ground. What the fetch is happening? All this time, had he been orchestrating his final act? It all happened in an instant. Once I understood his scheme, it was too late. But he didn't poison you. Like this is a straw man type of problem. It's like they're trying to stage it to say that, oh, look, he broke the accord, but he didn't break the accord. John Smith was unnaturally silent as death came to claim him. There was no time to even try to save him.
天使様徳主の祝福を。
Those were John Smith's last words. His hand reached helplessly for the heavens before falling limp.
レミ君
This was a planned act of suicide, but who can attest to that fact?
やられた。
A human had lost their life in my home with the tea I prepared. That meant one thing only.
契約違反ですね。
Oh gosh. No, he didn't! Someone spoke. Most likely from all the way up in heaven.
これより悪魔払いを執行します。
A fierce light shone from below. The glow indicated authority only granted to the angels' apostles.
あがない。卓球戦火。
Oh boy. Countless crosses made of light paved the way to the holy domain. John Smith's role ended with the completion of his memoir. Once it was finished, he had no cause to live for. It was the angels who sought to make use of his tragedy. The devout madman that he was, he must have readily agreed. I was naive. The apostles wouldn't hesitate to get rid of me by any means necessary. And now I faced punishment for violating their accord.
かの翼は自由を与え、かの剣は正義を掲げ、かの瞳は真実を映し出す。
But I mean, like, shouldn't the whole point of an accord of this scale be, like, determined, like, true or false on facts, not on, like, what, perceptions? Because it's pretty clear Remi didn't kill him. The angel she served bravely led the charge in an unending war against the demons. He, mightiest of all seraphs, once commanded an army of angels to confront the rebel Lucifer, bringing about chaos to all order. Behold his name, Archangel Michael.
だが神のようか。
Under certain conditions, the seraph would bestow powers upon the girl before me. And with that accord violated, its full magnitude was granted unto her. Countless crucifixes of light rained down upon me. With a thunderous roar, they ripped and tore through my body as blood spilled endlessly.
これが神の怒りだ。
The onslaught of crosses was merciless. As instruments of judgment, they possessed unimaginable destructive power.
この世を乱す悪魔の人形よ。今ここで滅びなさい。
A flood of light crushed any resistance I could offer. My flesh disintegrated in the face of the seraph's might. Before the Lord's wrath, I was powerless. I heard a hymn in the background. All the lights of this world gathered to rejoice at my judgment.
あっけないものですね。
The sheer power of the seraph granted to Anj far surpassed my expectations. I couldn't lift a finger.
最初からこうしていればよかったのです。契約なんて解釈次第でどうとでもなります。
That just feels way more evil than anything he's done. And yet, my body still yearned to live. It would take more than this to halt a demon's effigy. Anj was aware of this, for she had more up her sleeve.
あなたの弱点は人に近づきすぎたことです。心を得てしまったことで、その力を十分に発揮できない。
The crucifixes shone brighter still. The purpose of this trial was to break my spirit.
視天使の前です。罪を告白しなさい。
Before the Lord's guidance, all wrongdoing was laid bare. That finally pushed me to my breaking point. Okay. So we're gonna get his background, huh? Okay, I think we're gonna stop here. This has been a way longer of a series than I expected. This game's way longer than I thought, but it's okay. I think we're getting towards the end. Like, really to the end. But I feel like this is just a good place for it to end. It's also just, like, an interesting week, I have to admit. A lot of big changes going on, a lot of big stuff in the works, which is good, but trying to find a new way to record and, like, how to best do it is already proving to be interesting. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna make it work, but it's challenging, to say the least. So I'm gonna try and hopefully have it all figured out in the near future, but ultimately very excited. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope this has been interesting. This is such a perplexing issue because the rules of this world are odd. Because it's like the fact that it's almost like she was able to excuse, like, to say that he broke the accord because he allowed a human to die on his premises from tea that he served, even though he didn't poison the tea like the guy did. But like, so why would duplicitous action work for a being that's supposed to be like a manifestation of goodness? Like, an angel shouldn't be able to do that, as far as like I'm aware of like the rules normally guiding angels. But then again, it seems that John himself had some type of influence on him to twist his words and thoughts into doing what happened in the first place. That implies that this has been a setup for a long time. And if that's the case, why? Who did that setup and why would they? It just doesn't make much sense. Like, this world, it feels more like angels and demons are like, they believe they're on the light or dark side of things, but they might not be actually like beings of good or evil. They might just be beings of philosophy, you know, but like capable of doing just as terrible things as the other, which is interesting, and I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. So far the story is pretty compelling though, gotta admit that. So next week we'll see what Remi's story is, because that's the thing that's kind of cool. It's like, this is going to be his background, where he came from, how he felt, and then I'm guessing Lazriel is going to be able to do something to save him, because it'd be really sad if he just dies here, but I just can't see that being the case. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for your patronship of like being here, or especially if you're a patron or member. Like, oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, lots of great, good stuff in the future. A lot of good changes coming along. Looking forward to trying to make the rest of this week's content in the next few days, I guess. Like, trying to figure that out. But thanks for your patience, and I appreciate everything you do for me. Thank you so much, and until the next video, watch me up and see me in next. I'll see you there.